So we have roots. Roots are places where a graph touches the x-axis. Okay. Now that's not enough to get a parabola, or you can't. We don't know what the parabola would look like. It could look like this. It could look like this. It could look like this. So 2 roots is not enough to know what the parabola is, and if we don't know what the parabola is, then you can't have an equation. It's not enough information. But all we need is 1 more point. So as soon as I give you another point, there's only 1 parabola that's going to be able to do that, which means we can get an equation of that line. Okay. Now, something else that we saw yesterday was we learned how to find roots by factoring. So the first thing we did was we replaced the y with a 0, because when you're on the x-axis, the y value is 0. And then we factored then we set each one equal to 0, and we solved. That was one of our things that we did yesterday, and that tells you where it touches the x-axis. But what we want to do is we want to work backwards. I want to start from the roots. We're going to turn them into factors, and then we're going to multiply them back together to get the equation. So when we did that, you take the root and you put it next to a 3 with an opposite sign next to it. Same thing with the 1. And then you just multiply them together. So our goal is to take the information given and come up with an equation. Okay. So let's do that. We did a whole example of this yesterday, but we didn't get a chance to practice it. So we'll just I want to do another example though, because it's been a whole day since you saw it. Then we'll do a couple practices together. So, all right. The first thing that you might want to do is you might want to label your points. I don't think I said this yesterday, but I think it'd be helpful. Label your R1, R2, X, and Y. Okay. The R1 and R2 are these numbers here. That's a root. So I'm using the letter R for that. This is a root. And then this is just some random X and Y point there. Okay. So the roots, you know they're roots, and I don't even have to tell you that they're roots because they have a 0 next in the Y spot. So I'm calling them roots to help you, but really I shouldn't even have to tell you that because they're next to a 0, which means those are roots where it touches the x-axis. All right, so the next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to plug those in. To this little formula here. I'll bring it back. Zipped up too high. So we want to plug them into that little formula there. So I don't know what A is, so I'm going to leave that alone. I do know what X is. X is 1. Minus, I know what R is. R is 3. Once again, there's another X, so I'm going to put the 1 here also. And my R2 is -4. Oh, and I know my Y also, actually, it's -30. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to solve for A. So I'm going to subtract these first. 1 take away 3 is -2. 1 minus a -4. Double negatives make a positive, so that's going to be 1 plus 4, which is 5. And then we're going to multiply all this together. 5 times -2 is -10. And then we still have the A. And then we're going to solve by division. and I get 3. All right, so step 4, I'll put that over here, is we want to plug in R1, R2, and A, but not X and Y this time. Not X and Y, just R1, R2, and A. So same formula though. We're still going to use this guy. So my A value that I just found out over there is 3. My R1 value, was it 3? Let me know if I'm wrong. And then my R2 value was -4. All right, so I'm just going to change that minus a -4 into a +4. Now the first thing that I would do is for number 5, we want to do the box method to multiply. So let's do that. Put x minus 3 along the top, x plus 4 down the side. And then I'm going to fill it in. So I have x squared, and then I'm going to put my like terms together. 4 take away 3 is 1x minus 12. So these two things getting multiplied together became this, and I still have this 3 in the front. So the last step is to go ahead and distribute. So that means we're just going to multiply that 3 to the inside here, and we should be good to go at that point. And there's my answer. So we took the 2 roots and a point, and after a lot of work, we turned it into an equation. All right. So what's cool about that is that if from these 3 points we created an equation. Now that we have an equation, we can find any other point we wanted to on that graph. Okay, so that's why mathematicians like to do that. All right, so I'm going to let you guys. We're gonna do like one together now. So we'll call this guided practice. I'm not going to write out the instructions again, the same instructions, but I'm going to give you the same starting information. We're going to have a root, another root, and a point, some random point. All right, so step 1, guys, is to label these things. Okay, so you go ahead and do step 1. I'll ask you what you got for your labels, okay? Go ahead and label your numbers there with the appropriate letters. And I'll ask you what you got.
R1 and X, R2.
Correct, cool. So we're going to plug R1, R2, X, and Y into that little formula there. So go ahead and do that, and I'll ask you what you got. Give you a second there. Now, if you guys were plugging them in, maybe here instead of a plus, you had a double negative. But Jedrick just did that mentally, which is fine. But so the formula that we're using has a minus in it, and then the numbers we're plugging in this case, have negatives also. So those double negatives do become positives. So just save us a step there. We'll write that. All right. After we, what's our third step there, Cynthia? Solve for A. All right. Why don't you guys go ahead and solve for A? I'll give you a second to do that. Go ahead and solve for A. What we would have done is combine those, then combine these, and then multiply all that together, and then divide. Okay, so that's step 3. Let's ask Vidal, what do we do after we find A? What's step 4?
We plug in R squared, and A.
Good job. So we're going to plug in R, R2, and A back up into this formula here. So we're plugging in these 3 things here. Okay, so if I do that, we're going to have negative 2 goes here. We're going to put minus a negative, what was it? What was R1? 1? So minus a negative 1 would be plus 1. Yeah. I added these numbers together. Like that makes 2, and that one makes 4. This guy over here, we're doing x minus R2. R2 is negative 7, so minus a negative 7 is plus 7. Oops. Bring it back. All right. Michelle, what's the next step? We're on step 5. What's that? We're going to do the box method. So why don't you guys go ahead and do the box method. We want to multiply these things together here. I'll give you a second to work that out. Just what would this part be?
So it's negative 2 and then it's 2x to the second power plus 8x plus 7.
So this is what your box should have given you. Now if you didn't get that, I'll show the work over here. Kind of see what went on there. We have an x plus 1, so I'll put that at the top. We have an x plus 7, I'll put that along the side. And this is what filling it in should have looked like. And then we have these two get added together. So we have x squared. We have these two added together makes 8, and then we have 7. Right. And then we're ready for our last step there. David, what's the last thing to do? Yeah, just distribute, and then we're all good there. Okay, so that was the guided practice. So I did one, we did one kind of together slowly. Now I'll throw one more at you, and that's all we're going to do for the day. If you finish early, you can do your homework, or you can just hang out. I'll leave that up to you guys. Let me bring that back. I'm sure some of you guys are still writing it. But give you your student practice. All right. So root is 40. Root is 20. And then a point would be 0.4. Right, so that's it.
He deleted our chat.
All right, guys. I think that's the answer. So if you don't end up with that and you have a question, feel free to let me know. But like I said at this point, if you guys want to work on homework or just hang out, you're welcome to do that. Okay.